Thank you, Pam, for joining us for this conversation. I am hoping that this is all going well and that people can see us. I didn't even think to check. Um, so welcome those of you who are watching this video. My name is Kelly Baker Josephs. I am here with Pamela Mordecai to discuss her play El Numero Uno. And this is part of a series of conversations that we're having with playwrights that have published plays in Manchineel and Seagrape, which is, let me have a nice uh, paragraph about it. It's an open access journal dedicated to publishing edited scripts of Caribbean plays. Um, you can find these at the Manchineel and Seagrape link that should be under this video on YouTube, or you can just Google Manchineel and Seagrape and you should be able to find um, the site itself, which is supported by the Digital Library of the Caribbean and the University of Florida Libraries. We are also supported by the Caribbean Digital Scholarship Collective and the University of Miami and the Mellon Foundation. Lots of support coming for this project. So welcome, Pam. Thank you for having this conversation with me today. Would you like to say a little bit of, like, to describe the play? We hadn't decided that. Do you want to do a little summary of the play, El Numero Uno?
Well, first, I want to say thank you very much, Kelly. It's good to be here. And big ups for the Manchineel and Seagrape initiative, I'm going to call it. I'm very interested in why it's called Manchineel and Seagrape, because Manchineel is one of the most dangerous, most poisonous
I
plants in the
know.
world, right? So, um, uh, well, El Numero Uno is the story of a pig. He's a teenage pig, and he is learning how to be a cook. And he sort of solves the problem that a whole village is having because some capitalist beasts have captured the heights of the economy in the village. The village don't have no water, the village can't grow nothing. Anyway, the problem is with two beasts in a forest, and Uno and the whole community cooperate to sort of transform the beasts into their true selves, and everybody is happy.
Can you tell us about what inspired you to write said play?
Well, I had a story, and Young People's Theatre, which is an
Yeah.
amazing theatre for young people in Toronto, um, sent out a call. You know, the call you guys do, academics do calls for publications, CFPs. They sent out a call for scripts for plays, and so a wonderful librarian whose surname I forget, Vivian, who worked at UWI Library and who was working in the library system in Toronto, sort of got in touch with me and said, Pam, I don't know if you know, but there's this call for plays. So I transformed the story into a play, and behold, El Numero Uno was born.
Born. Cool. Could you tell us a little bit so it has been performed twice,
Oh,
right? Could you tell us a little bit about the context of the two performances, which seem very different to me, but you tell me.
well, as I say, the Young People's Theatre, it was Lorraine Kimsa Young People's Theatre at that point in time, because, you know, people give money and you get money, and so you have to have your name onto whatever
Name,
it
yes.
is, right? So Lorraine Kimsa Theatre for Young People, um, they have resources, and they have, you know, like the play went through this dramaturgy process, and it took quite a long time, and money was spent. I mean, the most amazing, some of them from the Caribbean. Roma Spencer from Jamaica, or
Yes.
no, Roma is from Trinidad, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, and wonderful and very talented actors, and that includes the female of the species, came, read it, we revised. I enjoyed that process enormously, because I had never, you know, I had no experience of that before. And the play was much better because you revised in terms of feedback from the people who were reading it. So it went through that process, and eventually they mounted it very simply but brilliantly. They transformed the theater in the round, so it was performed in the round.
Okay.
Astrid Jansen, who is a wonderful designer of costumes and settings, did very famous all over the world at University of Toronto, I think still, and she did the costumes and I think the settings. And it was just it makes me so sad that we don't make a record of these things, especially in the Caribbean, where we don't put we don't have the resources to put things on again and again and again, kind of thing. So every time I think a play, any play is performed, any performance is mounted, Louise Bennett's ring ding
Mhm.
tapes were scrubbed by the JBC. Do you
I
know that fact?
remember, yes, I remember hearing that, which is just,
That's the hugest loss. We can't replace that. So I have this thing. Why don't we record these things? Anyway, it was done in Black History Month, 2010, a fabulous, fabulous production of the play. And then in Jamaica, so the network now, Raul Gibbons, I said to Raul,
yeah.
have this play. And Raul said, send it to Pierre Lemire. Why you don't send it to Pierre Lemire? So I sent it to Pierre. And Pierre said, we'd love to do this. So they did it, I think, in 2017 at the School of Drama in Kingston.
Mhm.
I didn't get to go because my baby father was not well at that point in time, so I didn't get to go down. But I think it went quite well. And yeah, so that was the second production about which I can't talk that much because I didn't see
You
it.
did see it. Yeah. I wonder if there are recordings of either one of those. That would be
There is a
really interesting
recording
to know.
of, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Mhm.
There's a recording of the Young People's Theatre, but it's a sort of very, sort of just so that we can have a record. So the
Yeah.
production values of the recording, if that's an
Mhm.
appropriate term to use for recordings,
Yeah.
wouldn't be particularly good. And I don't think the one I don't know, I've never asked Pierre, but I don't think the one at School of Drama was recorded.
Hey, so the first one was 2010, the second one was
2017, I
2017,
think.
you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and here it is published in 2024, so it continues to have life. A little bit about the play, the inside of the play, right? The introduction that we published is by one of those babies, Rachel Mordecai, your
Yeah.
daughter. And in it, she writes that in the play, the dialogue moves, I'm quoting her here, the dialogue moves fluidly between English and a non-specific Anglophone Caribbean language, bearing markers of both Jamaican and Trinidadian Creoles with regular interpolations of French and Spanish. And she calls this the play's linguistic hybridity, which I think is a great term for capturing it. And I know that Jamaican Creoles are really important to you in your other writings. Why the different linguistic registers for this play?
Well, I think one obvious answer is that there are two official languages here in Canada, and I'm writing the play now for a Canadian audience,
Mhm.
right? And I think I have a kind of bug in my bonnet about languages.
Yes.
I was doing a little bit of research this morning, and I think at that point in time, um, first of all, in Canada, most people were Anglophone. Then the second language group, Francophone. The third, I think, speakers of Mandarin. And the fourth, 7% speakers of Spanish. So maybe if I was conversant with Mandarin, Mandarin might have gotten there somehow. But I think language is the primary carrier of culture. And
Mhm.
if you want a society where everybody is welcome, then all the languages must be welcome. So I guess I was trying to signal that. And then Dread Talk, which is in there too, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, which is, well, the underlining if the Creole is hybrid, as in between Trinidad and Jamaica, because the pig is from Lopino, actually. Don't ask me why I was from Lopino, but I'm is a pig from Lopino. Um, so like to just underline the power of Jamaican Creole, there's dread
Yeah.
talk there. Um, but it's not the only thing that I have tried. I was trying at a certain point to um, to do mashups of my children's poems. So, like, I have a poem called Angus Miller, and the first line is Angus Miller Caterpillar, and so I did Angus Miller Caterpillar, Manchineel una oruga, which is Spanish and French for caterpillar. I was trying to do mashups. No, I didn't get very far with that. But I just think that we need to have a much more open air about language. I mean, in the Caribbean, for instance, our literatures have been kept separate because we all don't know. I mean, I don't know how many people in the Caribbean speak Spanish, French, Dutch, as well as English, and really that should be what's on all of our tongues.
Yes. Well, you were definitely bringing them together here in this play with the names, with the
I could also say
slang.
I
Yeah.
could also say an attempt to destabilize English, but no, no, it's true, it's true. Because I was thinking about it this morning, and I was thinking that, imperialism and language, in a sense, like when I was like 10 years old, to be a whole human being was to speak the Queen's English well. And this is foolishness, I mean,
Is something you just said came to me, but now it has gone out my head. So since we're short on time, I won't sit here trying to bring it back. Yep, gone. So, but there's not just the mashup of the language. So there's also the mixing of the species, let's say, in that you have humans and you have animals, and there doesn't seem to be a line between them. And we I had sent you a question about this, and then you pointed out to me that I had gotten it wrong. Um, can you tell us a little bit about, well, let's say, why do you use animals? Why a pig for the main animal? Are any of the animals symbolic? Any of those questions, or all of them that you'd like to speak to?
I was thinking about that, Kelly. I'm working from illustrations, right?
Okay.
The illustrations were of animal kind. I think I am the person, I introduce human beings into the mix. And I think I said to you, it didn't occur to me that there was any difference between the people and the animals. And it's true. I mean, and this is not unprecedented. I mean, the owl and the pussycat went to sea. Who sits down and says, really and truly, a owl and a pussycat? The pussycat would have eaten the owl, right? Or Christopher
Or
Robin
chase
and
it.
his
Yeah.
and his bear.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm not saying I'm writing out of that tradition, but I suppose the child in me, who is very alive, right, would just not perceive a distinction. Nobody says, "Oh, Christopher Robin is a person, and the bear is, and Pooh is a bear." You don't say that. It's just Christopher Robin and Pooh, right? And I'm sure that there are. I mean, the whole tradition of tales, our tales from West Africa. People, the animals speak as though they are people. Brother Nancy is, yeah, I mean, a person. We know we talk about people being Anansis. Also, there are animal virtues that people don't have, and people say, like animals mate for life. We would like to be able to mate for life. Who mates for life anymore? Kind of thing. So, I mean, this distinction between the animal and person, I don't know. In my dissertation, I say that we in Caribbean can tolerate unresolved pluralities. What more plural than an animal and a person? Why do we have to resolve it at all?
Oh, I love that. What were you writing about when you said we tolerate unresolved pluralities?
Oh, you want me to talk for about 3 hours?
No, no, no. It's quick because I know the answer, but for the
No,
people who don't know the
okay,
answer.
okay. The dissertation sort of proposed that Caribbean people have a particular cognitive style, and that we don't have to, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. You have to arrive at. We don't have to do that. We can tolerate multiple points of view, multiple cultural presences, multiple linguistic presences. We can tolerate multiples without the need to reduce them to any one thing. I think it is a great virtue. We should celebrate it more.
And in some ways, it's not like we are born with the virtue. We are sort of forced into the virtue based on just our situation in the Caribbean. I thought I knew the answer. I thought you were going to say Brathwaite, but
Why was I going to say Brathwaite?
I thought you were going to talk about Brathwaite, but I got that wrong when you talked about your dissertation. But I may be mixing that up with the conversation we had previous. I am going to move to the next question that we have about the play. I want to talk more about one of the humans, who is Ras One Love. Um, what was he doing in the play for you? Why a Rasta man? Was it just for his language, or is there more happening with him there?
Well, he is the philosopher. He is the person, in fact, one of the other characters in the play, because he arrives among masqueraders. And you asked me about if I don't know if I'm jumping forward on a question, but was there anything that worked, like in one place off the stage and didn't work on the stage? And when the play was put on in Toronto, one of the scenes that got put back in for the production in Kingston was taken out. And I have a feeling it's the scene in which the characters talk about Ras One Love, because somebody is stealing, and just completely wreaking havoc in this hurricane in the community, if you want. And they are trying to find out, characters are trying to find out who. And this strange looking man in this strange looking costume arrive, right? So they're saying to each other, and then Raswan Love speaks, and one of the characters says, he sounds more like a philosopher than he sounds like a thief, right? So Rasta, like the whole business of Rasta in what I write, is this okay. So the wisdom, if you want, is contained in the character. But you see, Kelly, I don't kind of work like that. Characters arrive. He arrived. I think he just arrived, right? And if he arrived, then you have to be there, and he have to do his thing. He has to speak in a certain kind of way, and as soon as he starts to thee and thou, Uno, who is a little mimic, starts to thee and thou as well. And but he is there for the wisdom that is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Access. That makes sense. And then Uno, the main character, is a teenager. Do you see this play as for children, for young adults? The themes that of community and working together, etc. I think, are universal, of course. But given that it was done for the young people's theater, but later it was done by School of Drama, I imagine for a mixed crowd. How do you see the play itself? Do you think of it as a children's play? Do you think of it as a more universal play? Or am I drawing a line that you think is a false line between those two?
Okay. First of all the people who acted, all the actors, were adults,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's that. Also, I learned a wonderful term from a friend. She is an academic. I hate to say that, I hate to put people in boxes. She's a teacher, okay?
Yeah.
And she introduced me to a marvelous term, which is within the hearing of, okay? Okay,
Oh.
so you can have children's writing, but it is within the hearing of adults. In fact, she used it the other way around, which is a lot of, or much of, there is literature that is within the hearing of young people or younger people or very young people, if you want.
Oh, I
Um,
love that.
so I think that maybe all good literature is within the hearing of. Okay, so you write for even very young people, which I do a lot of, um, and it is the wisdom in it, or the whatever it wants to say, is not just confined for its quality and its importance and its impact for the particular group that you write it for. We maybe if big people listen more to what young people said and recognized that it was within their hearing, then, this whole business of adults and young people being permanently at war would not be so. We would be hearing one another better.
Okay. So if I understand that correctly, would you say that because I guess thinking about who is within within the hearing of adults, like the play is written for children within the hearing of adults or written for adults within the hearing of children. Am I understanding that phrasing correctly
I
in the way
think
you're
so.
using it? And then which one would you say El Numero Uno is? Because I think it makes a difference, right? Whether you say it's for children within the hearing of adults or for adults within the hearing of children.
Now that is very interesting because, like, the like Jamaican pantomime, what is
Yeah.
that? Who is that meant for? Okay. Who is it meant for? Pantomime is for Christmas, children. Pantomime, Christmas, children. But Jamaican pantomime is absolutely within the hearing of, and sometimes directed to, the issues, important political and social and economic issues in the Jamaican community. So that would be my question. What is panto? I read Odale's Choice. Odale's Choice is not really a play for children at all, right?
See it, and he writes it as a play for schools, right? And we're referring to Kamau Brathwaite's A Dallas Joyce, which we just published in Manchineel Seagrape. It's written for, we would say young adults because it's high schoolers, though
Mhm.
they say plays for children. They land within children, right? Um, but you're
Actually,
right.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I like that landing.
It
Like,
well, meaning, okay, so when it was first published, it was published as plays for schools.
you mean
Um,
Odale's Choice?
Odala's
Absolutely.
choice, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm wondering, so you don't like that landing for El Numero Uno? You don't want a landing, or where
I,
would you?
I don't want a landing. If you want, I have a thing about putting things in categories, because I
Yeah.
think categories should be elastic. Any word should be elastic, I can think of lots of words that have elasticities that we don't know about. Um, and so, like, to say for children, what does children signify? Children signifies people who should be silent, people who obey, people who. It's a whole set of oppressions. You think of a child, and basically it's a whole set of rules and laws. At least it
Hmm.
was in my time. But I don't want that. I want that wherever it lands should be a space that says, okay, written for adolescents, but accessible to those a little younger who are very smart, who are ahead of themselves, and accessible to adults. I want a elasticity, and I don't know. Does that make any sense?
I think the two performances bear that out. Well, not that I've seen them, but the context of the two performances might bear that out. Um,
I think, yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to see what we have. I want to make sure we leave time for those last two questions. Um, could you say a little bit more about what shifted during performance of the play? So, was there anything that was, worked well on the page? Because we're publishing it as a printed meaning textual document, right? Or artifact. in Manchineel and Seagrape, but it is meant for performance. Were there things that worked for you when you wrote it that they had to shift when when it was performed?
I don't think so, Kelly. Not that I can recall. It's only the difference. The only thing was the dropping of that scene, which I think depended a lot on language and culture,
Hmm.
Jamaican language, Jamaican culture, what Rasta means and what a Rastafarian presence would have meant.
Would
And
mean,
so, yeah. And so
yeah,
they decided that the scene would go. And of course, you know that once you give over a play, you give it over. So the playwright now have nothing to say about what is going to happen in the production. You just sit down and watch.
and watch. Can you tell us a little bit more about other plays you've written? We've just published, so every time I say that we've published a play by Pamela Mordecai, there will be someone who will say, Pam writes plays? I didn't know. So tell us a little more.
Okay, you made me think about it, Kelly. I suppose I'm a very, like, I don't know, not conscious person as I write, whatever. Probably the best known, I think, of my of any of my poetry books is the first book in my New Testament trilogy. It's a trilogy at the moment. I'm hoping that to write another book before I die. Um, it's called The Man, a Performance Poem. And it is, in fact, a two-hander verse play. And it was not written for the page at all. It was written for performance on Good Friday in St. Thomas Aquinas Church, which is a Catholic church attached to UWI Mona. And it
Mhm.
was the only thing I've ever written in my life that was commissioned. No money attached. But the priest said to me, why don't you write something for Good Friday? And so I said I would. And so that is how it came about. So it was something written for performance. So that would be one play. And I thought back, I wrote when I was doing the Diploma of Education at UWI, I wrote a play called The Birthday Party, which was performed. Um, and I have another one act play actually, which exists. I think maybe I could put my hands on it. And then I thought that the new collection of short stories that I have coming out, there are two of the short stories that are really monodramas. They have no narrative in them. And the whole collection was written to see how far dialogue could take narrative, how
Mm.
far could a story just be dialogue or monologue. And two of the stories are, you could just perform them, bamo, monodramas. So,
Oh, see, so Pam does write plays.
well, I was also in the middle of another play called Sea and Sky, which was again meant for adolescents. And I had to drop it for cultural reasons. I had an indigenous character in it, and you have to pay attention in Canada
Hmm.
to respect for. And I felt, okay, maybe, if I found somebody who would write it with me, um, yeah.
Oh,
So
maybe someone will. And you're sort of moving into that last question that we'd like to close out with, and that is, what are you currently working on? So you have a collection of short stories coming out?
yeah, next year, yeah, called, interestingly enough, nothing about Jamaica, 2 days in Mayaro, which is, Mayaro is in Trinidad. Um, Yeah, so that should be out it's in production now. It should be out from Goose Lane Editions in fall of next year. And at the moment, I am faced with whether or not I try to write another performance poem, because all my New Testament, books,
Mhm.
the Book of Mary, the Book of Joseph, that's the man is the first. I'm writing it backwards in a way, because the man, which is the crucifixion story, comes first. And then many years later, the Book of Mary is the story of Jesus's mother, which has, strong theater qualities in it too. It has four Greek style choruses, which is,
Yes,
and then
ma'am.
the Book of Joseph. And now I am thinking about the Book of Mary Magdalene, but it is looming as a very large project because as I research it, did you know that there is in the south of France, there is a legend that Mary Magdalene was set adrift on the Mediterranean with a couple of companions, landed up in the south of France. There's a huge, like, there is a basilica dedicated to Mary Magdalene. There are all kinds of Mary Magdalene stories and presences in the Provence, in the south of France. I was not aware of this, right? But since the legend exists, it seems to me that if I'm going to tell her story, this is part of her story. It's a huge presence, it's not any little thing. It's huge. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm too old to take that on. We will see.
What is it called if you turn it from a 3 books to 4 books? I don't know the word. Qua something.
Tetralogy, I think. ET,
Tetralogy. That does sound
tetralogy.
vaguely
Yeah,
familiar. Well, we'll look to see if that if
if that
but
happens.
definitely for the book of short stories that I'm excited to hear is coming. And that there will be pieces that relate, to your dramatic work.
You know what I would love to be able to give if you were interested
Hmm.
to this project, Manchineel Seagrape, is the man, because I think most people know me in the whole world as somebody who writes poems for children. But I think the next best known of my works is the man, and the man is performed in Jamaica sometimes and perform it on Good Friday. I mean, I don't know, right? So people would. I walked into a church, Betty and I, and my younger sister walked into a church on somewhere, Runaway Bay, I think. And somebody said, "We're so glad to see you. We're so glad to see you. We were looking for the man and we couldn't find the man anywhere." So if it were up
Oh.
there, anybody could go find it whenever they wanted to. People perform it, and I hear about the performances afterwards. And that makes me very happy, although I should say, well, the playwright should be asked, blah, blah, blah. It just, if any work of mine just has that kind of presence among ordinary people, then that's really why I write.
Oh, well, we will talk more offline about that because it would dovetail very well with The Rope and the Cross, which is the first play we published,
Absolutely,
right?
with Easton's Rope
Um,
and the Cross.
Although I do want to say that if you want to perform El Numero Uno, please to contact Pamela
No,
Mordecai.
no, 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 no.
So you can reach through us. Um, Thank you, Pam, very much for taking this half an hour out of your day and the time to prepare as well, to talk to us a little bit about
Thank you
El
very
Número
much, Kelly.
Uno.
And a big shout out to all the people who put the plays on here in Toronto, and to Pierre and the cast at the School of Drama in Kingston, because they are the people who make plays really happen. And thank you
Yeah.
for having me.
Yes, and I'd like to thank Raul Martin, who's in behind the scenes helping
Thanks,
us
Raoul.
record. Thank you. All right, I am not sure how to exactly stop this, so we're going to take a moment.